I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting this afternoon. Call to order. If you would, turn off your cell phones and your beepers. You know, this is an issue today that many of our residents have some very, very strong emotions about. So today, let's show respect and no booing or cheering when folks say something. In June of 2011, this board voted 4-1 to place the property at the corner of Montreat Road and State Street on the real estate market. This week, a purchase offer of $2.1 million came to us. At least one alderman has raised the issue of selling this property at every board meeting since June. This property being an issue with such opposite views, I felt the offer should immediately be made public, with both the board and the community being aware of the offer. The board is not obligated to take action on this item today, but sooner or later they will be asked to vote. And we must be transparent in all of our actions. This board is criticized for the abrupt placing of the property for sale while doing those final budget hearings. Therefore today I'm going to allow citizen comments alternating between those in favor of the town developing the property and those in favor of selling the property. Then we'll have board comments or any actions that the board wishes to take. The program or the agenda will be Marcy O'Neill, our town manager, will do the presentation of the offer to purchase, then some comments from Ron Sneed, and then we'll call on those who have signed up to speak. This time I'll call on our town manager, Marcy O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think everybody in the audience have copies of the proposal that was sent to us. I'd like to give just a little bit of background on how this arrived. Since the town acquired the property nearly 2 years ago, and particularly since the buildings were raised and it's been a vacant lot, from time to time the town has received inquiries of interest about the property. Over the course of the last 2 years, I've probably fielded maybe 24 calls from private commercial property developers who had an interest in the property, but not so significant that they went to the trouble of actually presenting a formal offer. We quite often have commercial property developers who are just scouting properties in town for various and sundry interests. So up until this week, we have never had a formal offer for purchase of that property. On Friday of last week, exactly 1 week ago, I received just a cold call from a developer, like I have many times in the past. The particular company is Ed Street Company, Development and Construction out of Johnson City, Tennessee. And when Mr. Sparks from that company called me, he was just inquiring about the availability, what the circumstances were, whether the town had listed the property, and we have not. I want to be clear that we have not ever listed the property at the board's direction, even though there was a motion at one point to sell the property. There are several things on the agenda ahead that this board has chosen to wait for. Many of you are aware that over the course of the last couple of months, and the summer in particular during June, we had engaged the services of a private engineering firm to do a traffic study looking at traffic safety concerns, traffic flow, parking in the downtown area, pedestrian bicycle safety in the intersection, and taking a look at how that Montreat State Street intersection, as you all know, there's a kind of a dog leg, it's an awkward transition point in that intersection, how we might improve that. And the timing for all that is related to the fact that North Carolina Department of Transportation has plans within the next 14 months to resurface Highway 70 State Street through downtown Black Mountain. So this board has felt that before any of that resurfacing was done, it was important to take care of these safety issues, because we certainly don't want the state to be spending money resurfacing when we know we have some real safety and traffic flow needs. So anyway, the decision at June 28th was to hold off listing any portion of the property because we may need to inch back on the boundaries of that property in order to accommodate the DOT improvements. As an example, we have talked about one of the recommendations that will be coming with the transit plan are additional on-street parking on State Street, parallel parking at the front of that property. But in order to do that and not impede traffic, we're going to have to back that into that piece of property. We've also, the recommendations that will be coming from the engineers also include some recommendations for streetscape improvements, which may be talking about things like wider sidewalks than we have traditionally through downtown, because a lot of our sidewalks are actually not even ADA accessible. They're not as wide as they should be. We want to give people an opportunity to pass two by two without running into each other, and a place to sit down. There is an interest in improving landscaping in the downtown area, perhaps doing some underground utilities in that area. So there are a number of improvements that the town board has determined are important. All of this work has been guided by the Town Square Steering Committee, which is composed of a board appointed by this board, and it consists of the chairs or executives of every single board and commission in the community. It includes all of the major cultural and business organizations in the community, and all of the property owners adjacent to the Town Square property have been invited to participate. So there's been a lot of work leading up to this point with a very broad-based group of folks who have had input into this, and the timing is all associated at this point with waiting on a traffic engineering study to come back. So with that being the background, this proposal from Ed Street & Company sort of came out of the blue. I thought this was just another cold call, like many of the ones I've received, and I didn't necessarily expect to hear from him again. On Monday afternoon, we got a call from his office saying, please expect a FedEx package. The FedEx package arrived. I received this on Tuesday, and it is a legitimate purchase offer of $2.1 million for the 3 parcels that comprise the Town Square property. Now the offer is for the existing parcels as they are, sidewalk to sidewalk, bounded by Honeycutt, Midland, and Honeycutt, Montreat, and State Street. It came, as you will see in your packet, it came with a $10,000 earnest check. And for that $10,000, essentially what this is a purchase option, giving the developer 180 days to do due diligence on the property. And when I speak in terms of doing due diligence, this developer will look at zoning regulations, will look at layouts, and look at utilities and that sort of thing. And if any of those do not meet the needs of this developer, then the developer can walk away. There's also a clause in there for an additional $50,000 earnest payment for another 90 days of due diligence period. So at this point, you see that we have a check for $10,000, an offer for $2.1 million, but we have this board waiting on recommendations from an engineering firm, cooperative discussions with the Department of Transportation and the French Broad MPO, and recommendations from 5 of our boards and commissions, which have been meeting for the last couple of months to talk about, if this board were to sell the property, what sorts of deed restrictions or zoning requirements should be placed on that property before it's sold. Of course, the final sort of piece of this that's undetermined at this time is whether or not this board will accept the report of the engineers. They are scheduled to receive that report, the final report of the engineers, on October 13th at 6 p.m. So that's just a few weeks away, and hopefully in conjunction with that, we will have our boards and commissions also coming forward with their recommendations at this time. So you could say that this is all a little, the timing for this is a little bit awkward. It's uncomfortable, but I have an obligation as a manager when we receive, an offer to purchase, to bring that back to this board. So that's what we have done. Ron Sneed has also reviewed the contract and may have some recommendations for this board related to the legal matters.
The contract, if you like it, as a functional contract, it would work. But there are parts of it that I think need to be addressed before we sign a contract.
The one I find interesting is they're putting down $10,000 for 6 months of due diligence and another $50,000 for another 90 days. For later in the contract, those are treated as earnest money deposits. In the event they don't find or do find something that doesn't serve their purpose, they walk away and they get their deposit back. Obviously, if I were a normal seller pulling a property off the market for 9 months, I'd want some of that money to stay in my pocket if they walked away, true purchase of a due diligence period. A couple of things that Marcy's mentioned is there are boards that are going to come forward with recommendations. Right now, and this has been brought up before, we don't have a whole lot in place for that particular area of town that would control what goes on the lot if it complies with zoning. And I think your planning board, your historical commission, and others have wanted to address that and put something in place. And I think it'd be only fair to a buyer, if you accept his offer, to put in there, this is going to be subject to, and tell him what kind of limitations he can look forward to that this board might want to do. And I think a big interest, always has been, at least the Historical Commission and Planning Commission, is we get something downtown that looks like it belongs downtown. That's always been addressed in the past, and I believe those commissions come forward. And if you are going to take that approach, you want to build that into the response you give to the seller. If you're going to be willing to accept his offer, they'd be in a position to tell him what kind of terms and conditions you plan to impose on him. This contract is assuming that he goes forward with zoning as it is. He'll build what zoning will allow. And I don't know if at the moment that fully fits the desires of this board.
I would like to add one other piece of information, and that is that there have been a lot of rumors about what would be going on this site. The issue of the Walgreens is not a rumor. This particular developer has provided a site plan. I think some of you have seen that also as you came in the door. This particular developer developed the Walgreens on Tunnel Road in Asheville, the Walgreens in Arden. He is very upfront about the fact that his interest is in placing a Walgreens here. They have dealt with concerns about compatibility in the community before. They are certainly willing to work with our historic preservation board on any kind of restrictions to create facades that do meld better with the downtown area. They have expressed some interest in cooperating in terms of, if there is available space on their lot after they create the building and the parking to do some kind of green space or landscaping that would be perceived as a public area. They're certainly willing to cooperate. But this, I have to emphasize, this is very preliminary. This developer has not been by to, they don't even have a survey on this property yet. So what you see is a preliminary offer, but they are awaiting an answer from this board, although they have not put any kind of time restriction at this point. We have not cashed the check. They have not asked us for an answer on a particular deadline, but they do have interest in moving forward as quickly as this board would allow if the town is interested in selling the property. They have indicated their interest in meeting with this board or with any of our boards and commissions if that is something that's desirable. And that concludes. I'm happy to answer any other questions that anybody may have.
We'll address those afterwards. We're going to allow everyone to speak and signed up. If you took the time and cared that much to be here, we're going to listen to you. So we're going to go with against and for. The first name on here for against selling the town property is Becky James. If you would, when you come up to the microphone, give us your name, your address, and also while you're coming up, there have been emails sent to both my office and to the town, and those will be added into the minutes. So at that time.
I'm Becky James. I live at 75 Tucker Road in Ridgecrest. I own 2 businesses and several properties in Black Mountain. So I'm here to ask you, the board, to turn down this offer to buy the Town Square property to sell it to a Walgreens developer. I really hope that you will choose not to do that. But I came up with some questions that I...
Speak into the mic.
Yes, we can't hear you. How's this? Can I pull it to me?
A little closer.
Yeah. Sorry, this is my first time doing this. How's that? Is that better? Okay. I hope that you'll consider these questions as you address this possibility. My first question is, what's going to happen to the DOT's plan to increase the safety of this intersection in our town? We finally have a chance to rectify what is a daily safety concern for pedestrian traffic at this town center. Selling all 3 parcels could immediately put this DOT plan in jeopardy. If you've never come upon a scene where there's been a pedestrian accident where someone's been hit by a car, it's not a pretty sight. And every day when I drive through Black Mountain, I'm like, okay, we got through the town one more time safely, but please don't put this potential sale in the way of this DOT plan. The next question I have is, how does a Walgreens fit with our town's new designation as an entrepreneurial community? It seems that the placement of a Walgreens in this location will immediately put one of our finest new businesses at great risk, the Sunshine Pharmacy. If the Sunshine Pharmacy goes away, we're going to lose access to some very unique services and products and, of course, employment for those people that work there. Another thought I have is it really fair that the heart of our town become a pawn in what I see as a spitting war between two large corporations, CVS Pharmacy and Walgreens? And is this offer happening now because Swannanoa built a CVS and Walgreens wants to get a toehold in the market? Is that really fair to put our town in that kind of a light? I want to ask you to stay on track with the DOT plan and with what I see as an emerging movement that supports a compromise plan, including commercial use, park space, and additional parking for the town of Black Mountain. Each of you, please listen carefully to each citizen speaker today. If you do that, then you have a better chance of representing the will of the people. And thank you for letting me speak.
I'll remind you, your own timer, it's 3 minutes. This time, Elaine Lutzenheis.
.410 Avena Road. I think she made some very good points. It's incompatible to have a Walgreens in the middle of our town. But I'm also concerned about the number of people here who want to speak, who have no interest. Who don't live within the corporate town limits of Black Mountain and who do not pay property taxes to the town of Black Mountain. And I'd like for them to refrain from speaking, because even though you may shop here, you may be a temporary resident around the area, you do not have a first priority to what the rest of us pay. And think too, those of you that are sitting up here, of the people who work, who could not come to this meeting, who could not voice their feelings about this meeting, and don't get a chance to say how they feel. Thank you.
Jim, that was grass. Grass?
Jim?
Tom Gill.
No, I'm not Tom.
Oh, Tom is enjoying more of the good life for a while there.
Mayor and Board, as Chair of the Town Square Steering Committee, a voter and resident of Black Mountain, I ask you to please be mindful of the following points when considering the sale of the Town Square property. First, the traffic consultants will present to the Board on October 13th their findings regarding the intersection at State Street and Montreat Road and Broadway. Preliminary work presented by the consultants in a public meeting held on June 24th at Town Hall revealed that realignment of Montreat Road and additional parking on the north side of State Street will require a right-of-way that must be taken from the Town Square property. Exactly how much is unknown at this time, but will be reported to the Board on the 13th. Next, according to the feedback received from residents who visited the property during the study period on June 23rd and to Park Rhythms that same evening, the majority favored developing a site with an area of open public space, additional downtown parking, and limited small-scale commercial development. Finally, the survey commissioned by the Town Square Steering Committee last fall and reported to this Board in December revealed that of those surveyed, 59% were in favor of using the space for public gatherings, 55% do not favor using the space for retail stores, 53% do not favor selling the property, compared to 28% who do favor selling the property. Furthermore, I ask you to weigh the impact of any commercial development on that property in regard to our local merchants. We must first stand alongside these men and women and help them succeed. The shops downtown are small businesses largely owned and operated by local residents, most of whom do not have the deep pockets of a major national chain. The questions that immediately come to mind include, how will the texture of downtown change if a chain store locates on that corner? Which existing businesses will suffer because of the merchandise mix and pricing that comes with nationwide chain store buying power? And how will downtown Black Mountain present itself to visitors with a chain store located on such a prominent corner? Other questions are germane as well, but these are most pressing at the moment. We must move forward carefully and not be blinded by immediate need or pressured by false urgency. Thank you.
Alderman Green.
And I apologize, I think we have a malfunctioning timer, but it may beep at the first 15 seconds. I'm sorry.
Does that mean I get to talk as long as I want to
No.
this time? There's been some good points, some excellent points brought up already, and I think this board is really going to be challenged with some things that they have to do. Whether I'm for a Walgreens or whether I'm for a Walmart or for any other kind of thing, it's irrelevant. The point is, this town is at a crossroads. You know, the board's previously voted to sell the property if a reasonable offer has been made. $2.1 million is a reasonable offer for this property. The town's going to lose some money. They've made a couple of payments. But you know what? There's a lot of people that have lost a lot of money because of the devaluation of their properties, the way the market is right now. Some people have lost a lot, but then a whole lot of people have gotten nothing out of their properties. So I think what we will lose is going to be justified in the fact that we're going to have, pardon me, that we're going to have revenue brought in. You figure $2.1 million for the property and the building they put on there. I think what we have paid is going to very quickly be gained. Like I said, I'm not for or against a pharmacy or whatever. It's the fact that this property needs to be sold to take it off the backs of the tax people. I do want reasonable stipulations. I like what I hear about people saying that we need to make it fit into the property and all of this. We need to sell it. That's going to be the right thing to do, gentlemen and ladies.
Aldo Kong. She didn't sign it. Some people probably missigned it, thinking it was signing coming in. That's good, because we're going to have about 60. I know this guy talked. Terry McCall.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry McCall. I live at 112 Dissisway Street in Black Mountain. I feel like this whole thing's been sort of forced on us. Our taxes went up because of it, and I think that if we sell it, we're going to lose control of it. And I think that the town should keep it, since I'm paying for it and we already own it, so that we can sort of control the development on it. And since I'm retired, I'd like to see some little park there so that I could at least sit and watch the traffic while I'm trying to recoup some of my taxes. Also, if you do sell the property, I wonder if you're going to give my taxes back that was raised. Thank you.
Have you ever known that to happen, Terry?
Always the first time. It takes a little courage.
Joe Tyson. Speaking for.
at least the air conditioner works in here. In the back 40, it's pretty hot. My name is Joe Tyson. I live at 309 North Doherty Street. I also operate Tyson Furniture, which is across the street from the proposed project. And I do pay taxes in Black Mountain. In terms of full disclosure, I was opposed to the purchase of this property to begin with. Many of you know that. And I have been in favor all along of selling the property for private taxable development. I believe it's probably the most valuable property in the town of Black Mountain. I believe it's very important to expand our tax base in Black Mountain. And this is one of the few places where we can really have a big impact on the taxes we collect from a piece of property. If someone pays $2.1 million or more and puts a building on the property, there is going to be significant tax revenue. If we don't have that, the increased costs of running the town are spread over all of the property owners and all of your individual houses. And that's just fact. I'm delighted that someone has made an offer of $2.1 million, and to me it doesn't matter whether it's Walmart or Kmart or Mass General Store or anybody else. I think it's a great starting place for the town to start some negotiations with this party. I don't know exactly what the town's got invested in this property. I think 2.1 was the purchase price, but I really don't know what the town has actually spent on this project. And I know you would all be reluctant to lose money on a deal, and I can understand that. So I'd say this is a great starting point, $2.1 million. I would not reject it out of hand. I believe you do have to see what DOT is proposing for the interchange and for the intersection. I think that's important. I don't think that will stop a serious developer from wanting to buy this property. But I think this is a good starting point for negotiations. We may be able to win all of these things. We may be able to get DOT to make the improvements on the intersection, and we may be able to sell the property at the right price. So I would say don't reject this out of hand, investigate it. I also noticed that the site plan, the first time I've seen this is when I walked in the door. It's the first time I've seen any of the paperwork. And the site plan shows a building that's floating out in the middle of a parking lot. And if I understand our zoning ordinances right now for the C1 or whatever we call it now, you can't do that anyway. You have to build to the street. And we got lots and lots of restrictions. So there are lots of restrictions that are going to apply to this developer right out of the gate. And I would be reluctant, if I were a buyer, to buy any piece of property that had deed restrictions on it. I would want to caution this board to avoid that, to avoid the deed restrictions. But it's a good starting place, and I'm glad somebody wants to buy it. And I'm in favor of it being sold to somebody.
Jay Fox.
I would like to say something, and also I would like to ask some questions. We waited about 100 years for this opportunity. When I was a little girl and came up here to Montreat in the summer, there was a building right there. At one point in my life, it was an Exxon station, Mr. Lance's Exxon station, and it gave us great service. But now we're coming to a point that we want to sell a God-given opportunity. I read the other day where God gives us opportunities if we open our hands and accept them. But most of us don't do that. We take a present and say it's nice and go on. But this time we're throwing it back in his face. We have a chance to keep what was given us. And Black Mountain is a destiny for a lot of people because it has a lot of charm. And one of the big charms is the beauty of that view. And it took local artists to help us realize how really beautiful it was. Also, we need parking in Black Mountain. We are using everybody else's parking space. Tyson's, McMurray's, next door to the bank down across the way. We don't have any parking that belongs to us, to this town. And with the project that's been developed and talked about and worked on for 1 year, more than 1 year, we could get a park, a place where people could come, could meet their children from school, could sit while their wives or husbands are shopping, and make it a place that's central. It would be just as important to Black Mountain as Central Park is to New York. And if a lot of old people hadn't really stuck their necks out and convinced the city of New York to keep that space, they wouldn't have it now. And it's not just for New Yorkers, it's all the people that come to New York from all over the United States. And that's sort of the way this is for us. We have thousands of people that come here for 1 week or two weeks in the summer to these conferences, and they love it. And then they decide they want to come back and retire here. That makes a big difference to our economy. And we've got Chip Gregg there. He's the major pro here, and he can vouch for that because that's the truth. And I think what we need is the truth. And this property,
That's time.
I haven't asked my questions yet.
Well, we only give you 3 minutes.
You can have a minute of my time.
I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. It's not a Q&A though, Gay. You can ask questions and somebody can give them to you later. But if we do a
Okay.
Q&A, we'll be here forever.
Well, don't sell it.
Hats off to you, Ms. Fox.
Marilyn Sylvester.
Hi, Eric. Please put me at the end of the other list.
You're 141. Bob Hedden.
Now you can start my time. I'm Bob Headley, I live 433 North Fork Road, and I wasn't going to come to the meeting this afternoon, and I'm thinking a little slowly. I've been up all night. My wife's in the hospital, but she insisted that I come. I've got to justify my position because I live just outside the city limits on North Fork Road. But number one, my wife is a Burnett and a Curley, and that's some justification in this valley. Number two, I've already made a contribution through the town to the Town Square project, and probably will make another if we do get a town square. Marcy, if we don't get a town square, will I get a refund with interest?
Yes, sir.
Number three, a few years back, I was appointed by the board, the Aldermen, to serve on a comprehensive planning committee. And we were come up with a 10-year plan for the town of Black Mountain. Mike, you were on that committee. I don't remember that in our recommendations we recommend a Walgreens in the Williams Esso spot, did we?
Not.
I think if the town sells this now for $2.1 million, according to my calculations, you'll take a loss. And you're going to take a loss and have nothing to show for it. The solution to me seems patently obvious. It seemed to me that the eastern part of the property could be developed commercially, done tastefully, with historic preservation. The transportation needs can be met by deeding a small sliver on Montreat Road and East State Street so that the intersection can be improved cosmetically and functionally. The rest of the property could be used for park and parking. The eastern part of the property will generate revenue and may be close to, in time, close to what you'll be getting with the sale of the property for $2.1 million, taking a loss and having nothing. You know, I would like to think that 10 to 20 years from now, when our children and grandchildren come up Broadway and look up, they will be able to see the mountains when they come to the intersection. They'll look at that beautiful park and say, you know, the town leadership of 2011, they were really visionaries. Look at the heritage that they've left us.
Give our best to your wife and speedy recovery too.
Pardon me?
Give our best to your wife and speedy recovery. Judith Burt.
That's Jim Burt.
My name is Jim Burt. I live at 54 Timber Park Drive and have for 12 years now. At the point of retirement, Judith and I surveyed our options to make a decision where we wanted to spend the rest of our lives. And we chose Black Mountain for several reasons. Probably the top of the list was that it was a quaint community with wonderful people, and that's the type of community we wanted to live in. I think this board, Mr. Mayor, has a rare and unique opportunity here. And I commend the town for buying up the property that existed there, because it has placed you in a position of controlling the town's destiny. I think that to further commercialize that intersection would be a mistake, given the fact that the opportunities to do something there that would be of public interest and would add to the flavor, identity, and personality of the community. $2 million is a lot of money, and money is what we're reading about every day in the newspaper and hearing on other media as to the facts that these needs exist all across this country. But you can only sell this property once, and it might satisfy this year's budget problems. But I would say to you that that is a fleeting solution and is merely a speed bump on the highway to the future. And so when I look at this and realize that that property sits squarely on the 50-yard line of Black Mountain, what's done with it is of importance and of value to every member of this community. So you have a big, big decision to make. And I understand the money aspect of this and how tempting that must be with the needs that exist in this community as they do in other communities. So I ask you to think hard and wisely and make a decision that will be in the long-term best interest of this community. Thank you.
Still got some citizen comments. These people have come here more than a long time. Ellen Farragut.
My name is Ellen Ferrier, and Hugh and I have lived here for 16 years, but we've been coming here ever since he proposed to me in the early 50s. I want to thank you, folks, for putting that message on my telephone, because I've really been concerned about this subject, and if you hadn't called, I wouldn't have made it here. So thanks a lot for doing that. When Hugh and I first moved here, we had a refrigerator that just didn't work very well. And a guy named Jackie Moore came to repair it for us. And he fixed it very quickly. But then he stood around yarning with us for another 45 minutes, and I thought, oh my God, I'd moved from Washington, D.C., and I thought, we're gonna owe him a fortune. He presented his bill, $29.95. And from that moment, I knew there was a humane quality about this town. And Jackie has been one of the mountain people who not only has been an example to me of warmth and neighborliness, but the rest of us, I believe with all my heart, have caught that spirit from people like Jackie Moore. So, I realize, folks, that these are hard economic times, and you're the people who are in the tough spot. But I think we all realize that hard economic times are defining times. And as Jim Burt just said, this is just a bump in the road. We are going to really care how we use this land. And I ask myself this question: are we going to see a big, undistinguished box sitting on that corner, or are we going to have a thoughtfully planned use of this that reflects the humane quality and neighborliness that Jackie Moore and many others have shown?
One question, Ellen, did Jackie sing you a song while he was doing that?
No, but he's a member of the Stony Creek Boys, right? And we get some good stress out of him.
Go ahead, stop.
Sorry.
Gene Franklin.
My name is Jean Franklin. I live at 108 Connolly Street, and my husband and I own the bookstore at 103 Cherry Street. We're in our 12th year as business owners here. I would like to ask you to please not put the Walgreens in this particular spot in our town. If we were to decide to put the Walgreens there, I think we would show that we are seriously confused about who we are as a town and who we want to be as a town. My understanding is that the reason we own this property at all is that we wanted control over it, and we wanted not just anything to be able to be put on that corner. And in order not to repeat what everybody else has said, I'll give a personal example for us of why I think we would be confused if we buy the Walgreens. My husband and I, in 2008, bought and paid for and installed solar panels on the roof of our store. In order to do that, we were the first business in the historic district to install solar panels, so we went before the Historic Commission in order to get permission and in order to preserve the charm of the town. We were asked to lower the solar panels should sit at about a 45-degree angle to get capture the maximum sunlight. We were asked to lower them so they wouldn't be unsightly. That cost us $6,000 more, and we happily complied because we want Black Mountain to be a place where businesses can thrive and tourists will come and local people will enjoy being. So anyway, in my opinion, if we, on the one hand, have a historic district and we have strict rules that apply to all of us merchants that are within a stone's throw of where this Walgreens would go, we're totally pulling in the opposite direction if we then put a Walgreens, a box store, right there on the corner and give them control of that property. I'm for Black Mountain as the unique place that it is, but I don't really think we want to pull in two different directions. I do believe that Walgreens would not be in the historic district, but it abuts it. It's next to it. It's the heart of our city. I don't want to sell our soul for a mess of pottage. Thank you.
David Hicks.
Mayor, members of the board, my name's David Hicks. I live at 102 Valley Vista Drive. I have absolutely nothing against Walgreens. I don't know anything about them, good or bad. What I do know is that I do not want them in the middle of town. There's plenty of places outside town, but beyond that, I don't want any merchants on that property. I think the board showed a lot of courage when you bought it. I hope you have that same courage if you vote to sell it. Think about this. A few years down the road, when some of us, probably all of us, won't be here, it would be nice to think that people would look at that and say, you know, I'm glad that the folks that were in charge back then were farsighted enough to preserve this piece of property. So it seems to me that the choice you have is really simple. You can be farsighted and preserve it, or you can be short-sighted and sell it. I hope you choose to be farsighted.
Ron Watkins.
Name is Ron Watkins. For me, this is kind of an emotional issue. I was born and raised in this town. It means a lot to me. And although I haven't lived here for 37 years, I've been coming back here twice a year for the last 37 years. Love this town. I agree with everything Ms. Fox said, and I understand. Excuse me, I do get emotional. I'm just a big crybaby. But I love this town. That's why I'm back here. I could have stayed in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. The very idea that you throw somebody like Sunshine Pharmacy under the bus for tax revenues is disingenuous, short-sighted, and I think you can do better than that. You can put your collective heads together. You could come up with better ideas than that. That's all.
We're moving real well. Ed Martin.
It's Pete Martin.
To Chief.
Pete Martin.
I'm good, it's Ed Martin.
And I tried to see that.
When I signed the sheet, I thought we were just signing in as being for or against. I didn't know I was signing in as a speaker, but glory, hallelujah, I am glad to be a speaker. I am a practicing landscape architect with over 60 years' experience. I work part-time at the Biltmore Estate as a garden tour guide, and my terminal degree is in historic preservation. Gase hit it on the head. What if New York City had sold off part of those 700 acres to somebody to put in something like a Walmart? We would not have it, and tourists would not be traipsing to New York City to spend all their money up there. So for God's sake, please think about the tourists that are going to come here and spend their money. Looking at this sketch that I got of the Walmart, of the Walgreens, they're about the same, really. so far as this property goes. I actually did a sketch for that thing as a park with framing the view and everything like that. I don't know what happened to the sketch. It was a free sketch. In fact, I've worked on the beautification committee for 8 years, so I'm really sold on this town. We moved up here 10 years ago and own property on Chapel Road. If you could convince Walgreens to move their store down here and let them put in the parking. If it's got to be parking instead of a park, let them pay for the parking for us downtown and still have their store and still have the view. Coming in Highway 9 and looking up and seeing that view. Glory, hallelujah. You know, we need to preserve that, y'all. You've invested a lot, 2.1 million. You've already got your investment up to a bunch. You're gonna lose money. You're gonna lose money when you sell it. So listen, think about it. And if you are forced to sell it, restrict them to leave the corner open and put their store down there. And if necessary, have it parking, but it'd be nice to have a park too. Thank you, and I hope you make the right decision. Glory, hallelujah. Thank you.
Marcia Stafford.
Good evening. I'm Marcia Stafford, 110 4th Street. I, like Ms. Headley and them, have been a resident of this town all of my life. We're 5 generations in this valley and in this town, and have always supported him. I am very much against what I call a big box store coming into the middle of our town. We currently have 4 pharmacies, 2 private, 2 box stores. We don't need another one, particularly on our beautiful corner down here. I was so pleased when the town board rescued that property after it was originally sold and was going to have buildings on it that were going to block the view, that were not going to fit in with our historic part of town. This troubles me. There again, I was thankful to get the telephone call this afternoon about an hour before this meeting. I was thankful to be notified. I just want to go on record that I am very much against selling the property to the Walgreens people and having such a store come in the area. I'm not against them if they want to go somewhere else in the valley, but not on our corner in Black Mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Lionheart.
I don't have to come up. I second Tom Gill. I second Gay Fox. I second this woman. I second this man. They said it all.
For seconds, duly noted. Jim Point. Jim Point. Okay. Then the next is the favorite school teacher I had, Mary Leonard White.
I haven't taught you anything.
It's not for want of trying.
I should have known better.
I'm Mary Leonard White. I live at 113 Fairway Drive, and thank you for making the time. I know you all could be doing other things, but to hear everybody, because people feel so strongly about this. Everybody in the hall, just strong opinions about this. We care so much about this corner that's such an important corner in our town. The people have already spoken about how beautiful it could be, and you all know that I really care a lot about the trees and the flowers and how wonderful it'll look. But I want to point out the financial benefit of having a public square in the middle of town. It seems like when I go back and try to do some research and come up with dollars, and you can do that, that the people really started to try to put a dollar value on public green spaces about 2000. And I gave you all this form, and I've got 5 more that if you've lost your thing. And this comes from the American Planning Association, and that's what it does. It shows you without a doubt there is a dollar value, a dollar reward for a town to have a green space in the middle or on the edges or anywhere at all. Also, I looked up some more stuff. In 2004, the Urban Institute came up with a public value of urban parks. That research is available. In 2008, the Trust for Public Land that you all know and respect decided that the city of Philadelphia earns $100,000 per acre on their urban parks. In 2009, Harnick and Well, whoever they are, decided the city of Boston has a value of $70,308 on every acre of for their public parks. The idea of a dollar value, a specific dollar value, is new. We didn't think about this 15, 20, 25 years ago. Even when we set aside the lake that we all know and love, nobody thought about the possibility of putting a dollar value on our lake property. But you can do that now. So it's not surprising that in the past we did not sufficiently appreciate the public land that we had or that we could have had. But now we know. It's to put your head in the sand if you don't acknowledge that there is a dollar value on that property for the town to keep it as park and parking. Now, if you look around, you can't see everybody that has come and everybody that's waving signs like that. But if you look and see who it is that's waving these signs, you see that it is people who understand the economy of Black Mountain. Thank you very much.
Tom Sinks.
My name is Tom Sinks. I live at 126 Connolly Street. Like Elaine, we pay taxes here in Black Mountain and Buncombe County. I also pay North Carolina sales tax, North Carolina income tax, and federal income tax. I'm a retired tax and corporate lawyer who retired to Black Mountain with my wife, and I'm not sure I would have if they'd had a bunch of stores that looked like Greensboro. In any event, as a corporate lawyer, I was an expert at reading tax law and then helping my corporate clients minimize their tax burden. But my clients were North Carolina corporations, and as such, anything I could do was chump change as compared to what the big tax dogs could do for big box national retailers like Walmart, Target, Walgreens, CVS, and others. I have 3 specific reasons why I do not like any big box retailer in Black Mountain, and I want to share them with you. Number 1, jobs. This will inevitably hurt locally owned businesses that hire local people, many of whom are receiving retirement benefits and medical insurance benefits. It will replace those people who are laid off or cut back because the company has to cut back with minimum wage employees who are part-time employees who do not qualify for retirement benefits or medical insurance benefits from the big box retailer. This has happened all across America. Good local jobs with benefits evaporate and become lousy, no-benefit jobs. Therefore, I must respectfully disagree with Ruth Brandon that a big box store is not a big job store, it's a bad job store. Number 2. Number 2, local contribution. If a kid from the high school wants to sell an ad to the yearbook, they can go to Sunshine Pharmacy or Town Hardware or the Mary Wine Market, and they're dealing with the owner. When I tried as a kid to sell an ad to Eckerd's, they told me I had to go to Clearwater, Florida. I cannot imagine what the contribution of Walgreens would be to Holly Jolly. Basically, when you weaken a local business or drive them out of business, you lose local support for local activities. We become bland and look like everybody else. Now, pay attention because the next part is hard. This was, alas.
I'm going to give you another 30 seconds.
Thank you. Walmart did this. Wall Street Journal reported it. They put all of their real estate into a Delaware corporation. You can do it in any state that doesn't have a corporate income tax. Tennessee is one. So, you take the property, you put it into a non-taxable state corporation or partnership, you pay rental to it, you deduct it on your North Carolina corporate return so you dodge the corporate income tax. But Delaware or Tennessee doesn't charge you any income tax on the rental income that your rental subsidiary gets. Then, when you divert the money back into it, you don't have to report it to North Carolina. Thus, Walmart was dodging, and Target and Walgreens and probably CVS dodged North Carolina corporate income tax wholesale by sticking their real estate into a non-state entity, paying deductible rental to it, and not reporting income on the rental. So, from the standpoint of local employees, the standpoint of local support, and the standpoint of not screwing with the North Carolina corporate tax, Don't go with a big box retailer or a bad jobs retailer, Ms. Brandon. Go with local purchasers. Thank you.
Peter Martin.
I got the right time, right? I am a property owner and taxpayer in Black Mountain. I don't know what else I can say. There's been almost every single person that come up here. I think there maybe 2 people had some agreement to it, but I can't even remember who they were. Every single person except those 2 have been so against this and had so many good points that there's not much I can add to it other than the fact that these individual businesses, if you were to allow anything to go on that property, a few individual businesses that one gentleman had mentioned that maybe you put on the east end of the property, get revenue from that rather than any one big business. And I've developed a lot of businesses myself, and I know any time I had one big tenant, and if I lost them, I had one big vacancy. If you get 2 or 3 little guys and they are like Sunshine Pharmacy or the quilt store or something like that, and they are adding to the uniqueness of the town, they're going to be a benefit. If you get a Walgreens in there, it's going to be definitely a distraction to the atmosphere of this town. There's nothing wrong with a Walgreens. Stick them out by Route 9, leaving the town, where it's not going to affect the atmosphere of this town. Stick them over there south of Ingalls. They'll come here. They want to attack CVS. You're going to get Walgreens in this town, one way or the other. Their dollars are coming here. In the long run, you're not going to lose any money, and 2.1 million is not a lot of money in today's dollars. It's nothing. It's chump change. We need the parking. We need the atmosphere. We need to support our local businesses, like I mentioned. And our local businesses have rejected, I'm not going to mention them, but they've been approached by Walgreens to try to buy them out, and they've told Walgreens where to stick it. And they've got the guts to turn down a lot of money. They could have retired on that money, but they were willing to turn them down. You need to be willing to turn them down and not be greedy for that quick buck, like I think it was Mrs. Fox so eloquently said. God gives us gifts. What we do with them is how we're judged. And talking about being judged, I know only a few of you aldermen are coming up for re-election, but every one of you will be up for re-election at some point in time. I have a question to ask, or just a few seconds. When you do make a decision on this, are we going to know who voted for it and who voted against it?
Yes.
Okay. That will be reflected in your votes. Thank you very much.
John Klutz.
Y'all have a good afternoon, and I appreciate that phone call. I wouldn't have been here either. No drugstore.
Okay, sit down. Sit down.
I appreciate very much y'all letting me come up here and say a word or two. I have more than I can say in 3 minutes, I know. However, I want to say a few things and also give you a little history lesson too. But like everyone else, we have 4 drugstores already in Black Mountain, 3 in Swannanoa, plus about 3 health medication stores in Black Mountain. I think we have enough. But I do hope that if you keep this property, and I hope you do, please make some parking places for the people downtown, because especially in the summer they need it. And also instruct the employers to not have all their employees work in for them that day at parking, those parking places, because I know I had a drugstore right down here where Kilwin's ice cream is right now. And this is my history lesson. In that building, that was the first one built on West Court Street. I don't know how many of y'all knew that. But L.C. Jumper had a drugstore in there. He built it in 1923. He kept it until 1946 when Ed Knight bought it. And bless his heart, he had to have one leg taken off because he was over trout fishing, fell in the creek, and osteomyelitis set up in it. He couldn't do it anymore, so he said, John, I'll be glad to sell this, I can tell you. And I bought it in about 54, 55, something along in there. But anyway, it was an old movie. It was a movie house. I don't know how many remember it. But it had a glass front and a door on each side. And his prescription department was up there in the back on a little, where they used to show the cameras, you know. So he had to have that thing taken down when he lost a leg, and he just couldn't do it anymore, but he said, you can have it, John. And he had a Walgreens agency business in that drugstore, which I kept, and they wanted to know if I would be glad to do it. I said, yes, I'll keep it. Well, you could get a bottle of aspirin for 19 cents and one free. A bottle of suppositories for 39 cents and one free. Twice a year, you know, no big deal. But then when I was in one of your places here later, but served my term on the town council. But before that, somebody came along and made a motion that you take the signs that stick straight out on the street down, and you have to put them on the building. Well, on that it said Knight's Pharmacy, Walgreens Agency. Ed had a good name, so I just left his name on the building. I didn't change the name, I just left it Knight's Pharmacy. And they came by and said, I'm sorry, but you've taken that sign down and you cannot have this Walgreens agency. Well, I said, it wasn't my idea. That was the time. You go speak to the mayor that we can't help that. You just can't have it. I said, okay, well, forget it. I won't be an agency anymore. But that's the way things go. But I do hope that you can keep this place on the corner. Because as long as I traded with Melvin Lance all those years, and then Albert Dalton on the other corner, and it needs to be left in a park and parking places.
Thank you. Sandra Block.
You'll have to wait a few minutes. I'm blind, so it's hard for me to get it together here. I'm Sandy Block. I live at 814 Hiawassee Avenue. I do live in the city. I pay the city taxes, and just like a lot of you people here do. I cannot see any benefit to having a Walgreens or any box store here in town. I'm definitely against it. I always have been for anything like that. I do agree that we do need the park, and we do need parking. This town is also a tourist town in the summer. And where are our tourists going to park? We have a lot of complaints all the time, even when we come down to town, where to park, what to do, you know? This is a definite thing that is needed for this town, not any type of a Walgreens or any other type of a box store. Thank you.
Margaret Neville.
Thank you. My emphasis is a little bit different, incorporates what everybody else has already said, but I'm going to talk a few minutes about our kids and future generations. And in that regard, I want to thank the council for our beautiful new greenways. The pathway down Flat Creek is a joy to walk. It takes you out of the hustle of everyday living and into a beautiful area where you can sit and reflect and just enjoy it. And a lot of folks are taking advantage of that. Which brings me to why I'm here today and what I want to say about our kids. The offer to develop this property commercially is one which many of us hope will not happen. We have an investment in having a beautiful and welcoming town square in the center of downtown business district. I'm not opposed, like others here, to having Walgreens or other commercial enterprises locating in Black Mountain. I do question whether this small town, as many others of you have already done, with already 4 pharmacies and 2 grocery stores with impressive stocks of over-the-counter and personal care products, whether we really need another pharmacy. And I am opposed to obliterating the vista of our beautiful surroundings for decades to come, and doing so on a piece of property which is so uniquely located and suited for the use and enjoyment of both local citizens and visitors who bring so much into our community. I'd like to share with you a very brief quote from the book, The Last Child in the Woods by Richard Lerv, a book about what is happening as we progressively turn kids over to technology and our last remaining green spaces or potential green spaces over to development. Here it is, quote, "I like to play indoors better because that's where all of the electrical outlets are." This is from a 4th grade child. So I ask the members of the council to keep the faith. Think green for our present and our future generations, and please say no to more unneeded electrical outlets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judy Kaus.
She's here. Julia didn't know she was being called because she was hiding out in the room across the hall. And I wanted to tell you all, first of all, thank you for letting me speak today, but I wanted to tell you that I tried to do a quick head count with a lot of movement going on outside. And I would guess there were between 75 and 100 people who couldn't get in, who were very irritated. Maybe I was irritated most of all, but I think I speak for them in saying, wish you could have found a better place, perhaps at a better time. But anyway, I'm here, and thank you for the opportunity to say that I realize that this is a very difficult economic time. But America and Black Mountain are going to succeed, and we're going to be better and better and better economically. We've been through depressions and recessions before, and we survived and we'll survive again. So please do not make this decision on the fact that our budget is in bad shape just now and that people have lost jobs and that it's difficult to pay more taxes. And may I suggest one other thing? Please, 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 when you vote for this keeping of the property, that you will have some people, I don't have any idea just who might be involved. It may be the group that has been studying the use of the park. But I believe that there are ways to raise funds to help pay for this property. Someone earlier mentioned the Public Land Trust. And I have heard people say, I would give money to help keep that park. I believe we can raise money. So don't give up on us yet. The lady who spoke in favor of having something for children down the road, we'll be dead. But that park can still be there. And people who live here and people who drive into this town to visit can say, isn't it beautiful, and didn't they have really good sense? This is the Central Park of Black Mountain. Thank you.
Scott Counts.
I'm Scott Counts, and I live at 39 Cheshire Drive. My wife and I own a business on State Street. I'm not from Black Mountain originally, but I got here just as fast as I could, and I've lived here for 20 years. And I came here because of the small town that we enjoy, the friendly atmosphere, and the lack of the big boxes, because we can go anywhere and get that. A couple of years ago, I was actually for the development of the property with the observation tower. Since then, I have been on and I was for it because if it had been small businesses and locally owned, it could have bridged the other section of town, Sunshine Pharmacy, Fresh Pizza, K Sarah, the school, the Chamber of Commerce, the bistro, the dry cleaners. All those would have been made pedestrian walking. There have been a lot of studies done by a lot of big companies, Disney comes to mind, on just how far people will walk to get to something. And a lot of the tourists will not walk down that street right now because there are no doors to go into until you get to the dry cleaners, and there's usually nothing there for an out-of-towner. I have been on one of the little focus groups talking about the park, and I think it's a beautiful idea because that also answers the question of bridging. It doesn't answer the question necessarily of taxes being dropped in town from commerce. I would ask respectfully that our board take measures to move that property into the historic guideline jurisdiction so that it can be controlled. If it's sold, look for ways so that it might be controlled as to big chains staying out of downtown. And I love the idea of us coming together and paying for it. The Statue of Liberty was given by France, but children's pennies in America paid for the construction of the base and for it to be built. And I think we could do the same thing here to make something beautiful in our town, to bridge it, to grow it, to make it beautiful, and to keep the big box chains out of our way. Thank you.
Robert McDermott.
I'm David Madden. I live at 118 Church Street in the house that I own. Our main industry is charm. I don't need to get up to say that because everybody else has said it in various words, but we need to remember it over and over. And I knew it when I visited my son, who's lived here for 15 years, Blake Madden. I looked at this town as a unique, charming, wonderful place to live, that I would like to retire here someday. And I look forward to visiting him so I could see it again. If there had been a Walgreens where it is proposed there might be, I would have said, Blake, could we meet you in Asheville? Because I would see what we will see later if this happens. I would see a town its charm totally destroyed by that one thing. That one thing could destroy the whole town. Think of it. When I came into town, now I'm speaking as a citizen too, and many of you are citizens, and we should keep in mind the tourists like myself. When I come in from the west, the thing I will really see more than anything else will be Walgreens. If I come in from or people coming in from the south, up that slope, they will see Walgreens. Come in from the east, Walgreens will dominate, distract from everything else that we hold so dear. So it will become the Taj Mahal of Black Mountain. I want to make it brief because I know that I think people have really been eloquent about this matter. But I want to caution the board not to mistake the politeness of the good people who have spoken and who are going to speak after me, because what we feel is not polite, it's rage.
John Roundtree.
Good afternoon. I'm John Roundtree, 29 Cotton Creek Circle. I'm also Secretary of the Planning Board for the town of Black Mountain. And I have nothing to say in terms specifically for or against this purchase at this point. I simply want to say and invite everyone here that on Monday night we have our regular Planning Board meeting, and we have on our agenda at this meeting a discussion of any possible restrictions that we may choose to ask the Board of Aldermen to put on the deed for that property. I will simply remind people that at this point, the property is still for sale because the board has not changed their position on that. I do think it would be very difficult for us to simply say we want to sell it, but we won't sell it to Walgreens. Given the current zoning for that area, a 60,000 square foot store can be built on the property. So again, we have been working on the land use code for the last 3 years, and I would invite everybody who has an interest in seeing any possible restrictions placed on the deed to come to the meeting on Monday where we will be discussing that. I also want to say to the board, thank you very much for the phone call because I never would have known about it otherwise.
John, you might mention where the meeting is held.
Sure, certainly. 7 o'clock in this room. 7 o'clock Monday evening in this room for anybody who is interested.
Rick Ritzel.
Hello, my name is Eric Reitzel, and my wife and I are the owners of Sunshine Pharmacy, 206 East State Street here in Black Mountain. I didn't have a whole speech prepared. I would simply just like to say that I'm very against the sale of this property to Walgreens, and an analogy came to my mind as I was standing here listening to so many great speakers and so many people who have said some wonderful things about my business, and I appreciate that very much to all of them. The analogy is that in these economic times, there are lots of people who are stuck in a home they can't sell. Maybe it's worth less than they paid for it, maybe they just can't find the right buyer, and it's a financial burden to them. That's a common situation across the whole entire country right now, and around here too. But that's not the case with the town of Black Mountain and this property that they have. It's not a home. It's not a personal home. This is a public property, or it's a private property, but it's not a personal home. This is a different type of sale. When you can't sell your home and an offer comes in and it's a good offer, you pretty much just take it and move on, and you go to the next place that you're happy you sold your home and that you got out of it, and that you were able to clear up your balance sheet, so to speak. You're not necessarily so concerned about who bought the home. You assume that they're decent people because maybe they're similar to you, and you think your neighbors are going to feel that that's okay, that particular person bought your home. But in this case, I think we need to be, as the town needs to be very concerned of the neighbors. So if they're going to sell this property, they can't just sell it to anybody, even if it clears up the balance sheet. They need to be very considerate of the neighbors. And the neighbors in this case are not people that live next door to you in your home. These are the other businesses in the town. These are people like Town Hardware, and every business downtown would be affected by Walgreens for sure, or any other big box chain. Such as Walgreens. So what I would ask is that we be considerate to these neighbors, so to speak, when we make the decision to sell the thing. It does matter who we sell it to, and not just that we sell it. That's really all I have to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Carrie Davis. Carrie Davis.
Thank you. I moved to Black Mountain about 7 or 8 years ago, though I no longer actually reside here. And I chose to open a business here, my own common house supply, the kitchen store. One of the reasons I did that is because this is referred to as the front porch of Western North Carolina. Having a big Walgreens in the center of our town kind of destroys that imagery for me. Myself, visitors that come through my store comment about that first view they get as they pull into town. I think that's dramatic. That's very dramatic. A lot of what was said has already been scratched out on here. I'm against it. I think it would be a drastic competition for the businesses. We all already have our own little competitions, but it's a healthy competition. We all carry a lot of the same general things. This would not be friendly competition. This would be big box, bulk buying power, much like a Walmart or a Target. I can go into and see that they can sell things for less than I buy them for. That's hard. This is already a tough economy, and I think that would just, it would make it beyond tough. It would be like the Black Widow of Black Mountain. I think it would really suck a lot of businesses dry and then just move on, and I really hope that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie White.
You all have seen me before, but I first of all want to thank you all for informing the citizens of this meeting and of giving us all a chance to say what we think. I must say I'm thrilled with the response that we've had, and while I hate the idea of Walgreens coming in here, I'm glad that this happened because we haven't heard the public like this. This is a great opportunity. You know, I'm on the Town Square Steering Committee. I have not heard this kind of support for this property. So it's good to hear. I love it. I agree totally with the traffic needs. We need to wait and see what the traffic needs are. I'm very concerned about a big box store coming in and what happens to our local businesses. My pharmacy, which is right across the street, what's going to happen to that? But also, when I think of Black Mountain, and I'm working with the health initiative on trying to market Black Mountain as a healthy place to live. We are. We've got a lot of natural resources. We've got our greenways moving. We've got healthy people here. And then I'm like, 5 pharmacies? What does that say about a town of this size? I mean, we on the healthy side of things would like to see less. We don't want people having to take all these drugs. So that just does not jive with this image of a healthy community. So I really beg you to not make the decision to sell this property to Walgreens.
Well, somebody's handwriting is tough to read. Tom, is it Wirtz? You weren't in Mary Leonard's class either, I don't. Lord, no.
But I have learned a lot from her. My name is Tom Wirtz, and I'm a resident of Black Mountain, 1162 Old Highway 70 West. I'm also representing the Black Mountain Beautification Committee, which is a large group of volunteers that provide basically services to the town. We maintain garden sites throughout the town of Black Mountain. So I am representing them, and this is an old issue for us. I mean, we've been down this road. We haven't been kicking the can, though, but we have been down the road before. We got on early in support of your purchase of the land in the past, and we applauded that, and we also recently have supported the preliminary design for the property, which includes a green space at the corner of Monterey Road and State Street, and also includes some parking and a small footprint of commercial at the Squeaky's end. We recently voted on that unanimously. So we are in favor of that. We think that this option to sell the property to Walgreens is a mistake. We believe that you shouldn't negotiate, you simply reject it. This is not in keeping with what Black Mountain is all about, and I know our beautification committee members would wholeheartedly support your rejection of that offer. And I, again, want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Joyce Worth.
Joyce Blackwords, 1162 Old Highway 70 West. I just want to go on record that I'm opposed to the sale of the property to Walgreens or any such box store. It is the heart of the town, and I think that the town is at a crossroads here in the direction it's going to go, and certainly if it's Walgreens, it goes in one direction. I think if we take the time and look at the possible option of mixed use with some green space, some additional parking, and some commercial that would connect both ends of town, I just feel in the long run that would continue the flavor of the town that brought us here in the first place, and I think it would have positive impact for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Robinson.
I'm Susan Robinson. I live at 28 Blue Ridge Assembly Drive. My husband and I have owned Town Hardware on the corner opposite this property for 20 years now. We like to think that we've made built up that business and made a positive contribution to the town in operating it. I have a strong interest in what happens on that property. I would like to point out that Walgreens does not bring any merchandise to Black Mountain that is not already offered in Black Mountain by some other facility. They overlap not only with the pharmacies, but also with wine stores, hardware stores, kitchen shops, sports stores, just about every locally owned business in town. If you do sell to them, and I know that that $2.1 million is really tempting in light of the budget things, but if you do decide to sell, I think you need to put some restrictions on the property. I have recommended that you require the purchaser of the property to obtain a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation District based on the guidelines for the adjacent historic district. One question I have also is that while they are not required to provide parking because it's Central Business District, they will obviously want to provide parking for their own use. But will they allow anybody to park on their property and shop at any of the other stores downtown? Or will you have to leave their parking lot if you're going to another store?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Ingram. Alan Watts. Jennifer Caldwell.
Hi, I live on 825 North Okanichi, and I would like to thank you all for serving us, and I'd like to thank you all for being here to support them. Shame on me for not getting involved in this process sooner. I arrived in Western North Carolina because a job brought me here. I could have chosen, sorry. I could have chosen any neighborhood from Weaverville to West Asheville to Swannanoa. I could have gotten more of house for the dollar had I chosen some of the other neighborhoods, but I chose Black Mountain. This is a destination site for all of us, whether you've lived here all your life or you camped here in the summer and you moved here. We're all here for the same reason, because it's beautiful and we love it. Please don't do anything to weaken the core of this town. Please do something to make it stronger. I'd urge you to look at Burnsville and examine what they've done to strengthen their core. And again, thank you for serving.
Ann Stillman. Ann Stillman. Hi. Welcome.
My name is Ann Stillman. I live on 5 Burnett Drive. I came totally unprepared to say anything, but I am much opposed to putting on a big box store on that beautiful corner. I see it in my mind with a park and some small stores. And I will tell you all, when this first came up a year ago or more, I went online and asked online what other small towns have done putting a small park in the center of town where there was a piece of property for sale. And up came many small towns, and they showed the before and after. And they told every one of them that the town profited tremendously from this special little park in the center of town. They profited by having more people coming, by the businesses being more active, and the people somehow coming better together. So please, put a park there. Please. Thank you.
Sue Miller. Sue Miller, 7 Carolina Heights. Tiffany Smith.
Thank you for inspiring all this outpour of opinion. It's pretty exciting. I am new here to Black Mountain. I've lived in Asheville for a little while, but I absolutely love Black Mountain. And so many of the things about Black Mountain that drew me in, I'm seeing here tonight and hearing all these beautiful voices say them perhaps better than I can say them, but something that hasn't been focused on so much, or at least I haven't heard, is the comp plan. So maybe unlike your average 30-something-year-old, they don't just kick it back on the weekends and read the general comp plan. Well, I'm a planner type, and I really love what I see in Black Mountain. So I wanted to figure out, when I saw the sign for the town center coming, and then I saw the Greenway, and I thought, oh my goodness, they've got their act together around here. Who knew this was intentional? So I busted out that comp plan, and what do you know? All this stuff is actually being planned, and there's a huge vision for this town. And other places I've lived, I have worked diligently to bring these kinds of features to the towns I have lived in. And it's so exciting to move to a place where everybody's on the same page and we're moving forward in that wonderful direction of restoring our historic buildings and preserving our ecology and our mountain vistas. And one of the most important mountain vistas is right there, that town center. And one of the most important places in this town that keep bringing people back who love the charm and love the character are all the local businesses and the view of the mountainside. So I encourage you to promote the ecotourism and the cultural tourism and the spiritual tourism that happens in this town by excuse me, maintaining such a fabulous downtown. And I am absolutely willing to sit on committees and get involved, and I'm really excited about that process. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, the certificate of appropriateness from the historic district. That seems like a really useful tool that the town hardware owner presented. And bringing youth here, it's important to not have a town that is of a certain age group, because, you know, things happen and life continues, and we need to attract the kids. So I'm, you know, one of them, and I would like to party in the park. And so I hope you all join me. And I live at 110 Old State 10 Road. And my name is Tiffany Smith, soon to be Tiffany Halleck, getting married any day now.
Arthur Holman. Arthur Holman. John Pomeroy. Maddie Moore. Maddie Moore. Catherine Holman. Bill Atlar. Lynn Phillips. Phil Bessie.
I'm Phil Besessi. I live at 15 Highview Drive. I'm fortunate to be on the side of a hill in the woods rather than downtown, but I love downtown Black Mountain. My wife Helena and I bought our home in Black Mountain after our buyer's agent, Beverly Hanks, dragged us through 100 houses in Asheville. We chose Black Mountain as the town we wanted to live in because of its quality. I also had an office upstairs on the main road here until I found out that come summer I couldn't even park anywhere near my office. That's okay, employees should be, but it was very inconvenient for my clients to come to my engineering office in Black Mountain. And also the landlord believed in renting 4 walls and you fix it up yourself. So I decided to move my engineering practice to Asheville, and I still enjoy my home in Black Mountain. Now, the economy hit me pretty hard. My engineering office is now in the basement of my house, and I'm still hanging in there. If I didn't have a reverse mortgage, I wouldn't be in Black Mountain anymore. So I'm going to tell you what I love about Black Mountain. I buy from Susan and Barry. I buy from Ruth Higgins. I buy from Kim and Bob. I won't go in a big box, period. I just won't go where I don't get service from my neighbors. I buy my food from farmers at the tailgate market. You're not going to find me going into a big foreign-owned store. I buy food from Ingles. At least they're local people. You won't find me going into Bilo from South Carolina. I just believe in supporting local. I don't believe in cheap. Cheap is much more expensive than local. So all those reasons why I think we have a great asset, and I'm going to repeat what I've repeated almost every year when the budget comes up and so on. We have to value our assets and do everything we can to improve the town's assets. Selling an asset? That's suicide. And I'll use that word strong. That's suicide to sell this asset.
Laura Edmonds. Pat White. Sterling Vaden. Is that correct, Vaden?
That's correct. My name is Sterling Vaden. I live at 130 South Blue Ridge Road, and we've lived there since 1992. We also are commercial property owners in Black Mountain, and as such, we have a vested interest in the future of Black Mountain and the prosperity of Black Mountain, because Black Mountain's prosperity means our prosperity. So I hope to bring just a couple of points to your attention that may be unique and part of my own personal experience. The first one is that many times it's mentioned that there's economic benefits to bringing in a franchised or chain operation into a community and retail operation as such. And I'd like to say that I'm not sure how the math works on that, because all of the proposed economic benefits, such as the purchase price of property, the construction costs for building the building, and the money paid to the people that run the place and everything else, are all expenses for the operation. The taxes that they pay and everything else is expenses. And of course, they wouldn't come here unless they intended to make a profit. The profit has to exceed the expenses, and so the profits are going to go out of this community, and the net effect is a negative of the income into this community. And so you have to balance that fact with whether the institution is something that benefits the community. And in this case, I don't think that there is any reason that you can show that bringing a franchised retailer into town such as this is going to benefit the community. In fact, this franchised retailer has a history of competing with local franchised or local businesses. In fact, I can cite you a couple of examples. I think that in this case, Walgreens has, and from my own experience, I've been traveling around to a number of different cities, and I walk around and in these cities and in the the tourist areas and all. And I think that Walgreens has a strategy of locating their stores in areas where there's high foot traffic. And that's, of course, a valid strategy for a store, because you get a lot of business. And in two cases that I can cite as examples, one is in Lincoln Road in Miami Beach, Florida. There's a lot, they're right on the 100 yards from the boardwalk, and their store is entirely out of character with the surroundings. And another example is King Street in Alexandria, Virginia, where they're right exactly smack downtown. And again, the store is out of character with the surroundings. Thank you.
Betty Bates. Ann Lutz. Sally Schoen. Christy Little. Jimmy Lazendry. That A looks like a Z. We'll reconfirm it as Landry.
Hello, my name is Jimmy Landry. I live at 114 Beach Street here in Black Mountain. I've lived there since 1996. I first came to this town in 1989 or 1990 to play at McDibb's Music Hall that used to be located on Cherry Street. And the charm and the quaintness of this town and a good number of the people are what encouraged me to move here and become a resident. I think if we put a big box store on that corner, people who come to town won't be going to Brandon's anymore. They won't be going to Town Hardware anymore. And probably very soon thereafter, we'd lose those businesses. Recently, my girlfriend lives in the Ballantyne area of Charlotte, which is a sort of pricey neighborhood. She has a Target store 1 mile to her left and 1 mile to her right. She has a Harris Teeter 1 mile to her left, 1 mile to her right, and one in between. That area where she lives used to be cornfields. Recently, her son, this week, her son Sam sent me Flat Stanley because he wanted Flat Stanley to experience the town of Black Mountain for its quaintness and its charm. And I think if you redevelop that property in the middle of downtown the way this seems to be suggested, Flat Stanley won't want to come back anymore. Thank you.
Before you leave, the mayor will sign Flat Stanley's. Phyllis Parker. Willa Garrison. This Phyllis Parker.
I'm Phyllis Parker. I live at 207 Chapel Road, Black Mountain. I've been there 42 years. I have a new little great-grandson. He's the 6th generation in Black Mountain. So to say that we don't love it is not true. But I think all the people that have talked may not be the majority. The backbone of Black Mountain's working. They don't know about this meeting. They couldn't be here. But when you have a public hearing, the majority of the people need to know about it. But to say whether I'm for or against Walgreens, I'm not. For it, I'm not against it. But I don't think that we can afford to keep the property. And I think you should think about all of us native taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Levan. She's not spoken.
You gonna give us a break sometime today?
We'll try to wear you out. Come on now, man.
Never.
I wasn't talking to you. You'll need to get
Is this good enough? Can you hear me now? Yes. I have not in my whole life done anything like this before, and I figure it's time. I have really nothing new to say other than the fact when they were passing out name after name after name after name after name after name after name outside, and I can't count that high, of people that wanted to, if I got in, to please read those names slowly, deliberately, and quietly, and I thought, I bet that's breaking the law. I don't know what it is, but the names are gone, but I'm here, and I appreciate being able to say to all of you, I want to be here and be involved in this beautiful city as it is, Black Mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. Those of you who don't know, she's one of our most accomplished artists in the whole valley. Marie Kaplan. Stephen Brown. Barbara Lloyd. We have outside 79 people who are supporting a park. I'm not going to go through and read the names. We've been here now for 2 hours. Hopefully, your comments have been taken well by this board.
I'm sorry, did you call my name and I didn't hear you?
What's your name?
Robert McDicken.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I did. But come on up. I sure did.
I do have a little bit of a hearing problem, so I apologize. I live at 228 Pine Grove Road, which most of you know is in Christmount and therefore not in Black Mountain. I am here, however, because Eileen and I bought our house from Joe and Mary Hemphill, who most of you know or have known. And Joe used to describe, and we have been honorary Curleys ever since we bought the house. So Joe used to describe this town, and he used to describe it as historic, entrepreneurial, charming, humane, and conservative. And one of the things that I think I know Joe well enough to know that if he were here, he would say, Walmart is not being conservative. Walmart is a lot of things, but they are not historic, entrepreneurial, charming, or humane. I think, as many people have said, there is an economic downside to taking the money and running now. Part of it is, I believe that tourism as our major industry will be damaged permanently. Not for a while, not for a short term, but permanently. And it is our major industry. It is who we are. And the other thing I think that has not been said, and I used to do a lot of development consulting, and one of the things I learned from that is that money spent with local merchants who own local stores is 25% more likely to go back into the community than money spent with chain stores. I think Walmart is a bad long-term investment.
Bob McMurray.
I'm Bob McMurray. I live at 127 Hilltop Road, and I'm also the director of the Chamber of Commerce. I want to just bring us into the 21st century. I've got a new smartphone, and Black Mountain now has an app. And earlier today, Don Talley put a petition online, and we have over 1,000 people have already written in on the Facebook and the petition against Walgreens going in that town square. And there's hundreds of comments online that the board can read right there, many of what people said today. But one of our new mission statements is to prosper locally. And I think for a lot of our business to prosper locally, it can't be an outside big store box on the corner of our main street. Thank you.
Marilyn?
Marilyn Sabansky, 516 Laurel Avenue. Expedient solutions are attractive, sometimes very attractive. This proposal presents one such to deal with the debt that the town had incurred in buying it. However, it doesn't reflect what I remember was the reason that the request came to the board originally to buy that property. And it also excludes other possibilities that could include some commercial development. And we haven't yet really traveled down that path, at least certainly not in a more formal process. I don't want a big box to crowd our downtown and choke our small businesses. But I'll tell you, I like Walgreens. I may shop there when I am in the area for a particular item or two, and that was the case yesterday afternoon when I was in Nashville, although I walked out empty-handed. But I don't want one here in town where we have, as mentioned by so many people already, the businesses that supply the same kinds of products. But if we consider the final outcome, if the Walgreens were to be there, or if the green space, gathering space, parking, and perhaps some small commercial stuff at one end were there, what would be the lasting value? You could have a big brick and mortar building, and maybe that store would stay there, maybe it would change. But what about that green space, that open space where community members can meet, visitors can meet, we can share together, we can bond as a community and enjoy? And I'd like to be a voice for a resident who happened to walk in at the same time that I did. I think she was shy about coming to speak, stand at the microphone and speak. And she said, there are many small towns that have blossomed because they have kept, or made a small town square. Thank you.
Thank you. We've had 67 speak and 77 on the outside. I'm now going to turn to the board for their comments.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address the audience, please, very quickly. Not a long speech. For those of you that have followed me on this board, that have been here, residents of this town, you know that I have been for this project since its conception. I was one of the, Chuck McGowan and I were the ones that originally brought this thing up. And so there's no need to go ahead and speak any further other than the fact that I make a motion that we reject this contract.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I asked at the start of the meeting to present to you folks a proposal which would have eliminated all of you sitting here and worrying about what might happen. And I'd like to read this to you, if I may. This board, by unanimous vote on June 28, 2011, voted to delay listing the town square property for sale until after the hearing, the report from the traffic engineering consultants who are providing a concept plan for improving parking, traffic flow, and pedestrian, bicycle, and emergency access and safety through the Montreat Road, State Street intersection. Although we did not specifically say we will not consider any offers to purchase the town square site, I believe at this time we are wise to not take action on this unsolicited offer today. It is imperative that we have all relevant information from the traffic engineers, our own boards and commissions, which have been working on these recommendations regarding deed restrictions for the property, and from NCDOT and the French Broad River Metropolitan Planning Organization, which provided the funding for the traffic study before even considering whether to sell all or portion of the lot. To that end, I would offer the following in the form of a motion.
There is a motion on the floor. We need to get rid of that one first.
Well, I'll read this as a suggestion then. Okay. That the Board of Aldermen decline this offer to purchase from the Ed Street Company, that we accept the report of Martin Alexo Bryson on October the 13th, 2011, when they are scheduled to provide this board a report of their traffic study and a concept plan for the town square site, and that we consider the recommendations of the town's boards and commissions, which we commission to guide us through the development of the town square project. Before considering sale of any portion of the town square property, that we authorize the expenditure of town funds on a 1-to-1 match basis with private donations in an amount not to exceed $25,000 or $50,000 total, to provide for the initial engineering and planning for both the town square project and the intersection improvements. And finally, to authorize that any monies raised in this manner, either private or public, which remain unused for initial planning purposes, be transferred to the Parks and Greenways Foundation for use on the Town Square project as deemed necessary by the Town Square Steering Committee. And at this time, I will make a proposal, a challenge to each and every one of you here, those that see this on television. I am proposing a matched fundraiser at this time. I am proposing, and I have a check, a personal check here for $1,000, and I am urging each of you to come up with at least $1,000, at least 100 citizens. This will provide us with the money to begin, after we hear from the folks coming in to do the road ideas, that this money will be available for the Town Square Committee to immediately get with the engineer and start the actual plans for that Town Square property.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited over the fact that there's so many people that have come out tonight or this afternoon, and you're wanting to see this project. I echo what Alderman Brown has said. If this is so important to you, then let's see the money. We do not have the money to pay for this project. We don't have $200,000 a year to make the payments on this project. We don't have the money to develop it. And Ms. Brown, you're exactly right. That's what we need to do. We need to get the community behind this project. If that's what you want, then that's what we need to do. So I'm like her. I challenge you to come forward.
Any other?
Yes, I have a comment.
Get close to the microphone.
Well, that's as close as I can get. Hello, can you hear me? Because people tell me they can't hear me.
No, can't hear you.
It's on, Ruth. You just need to direct it.
You just need to get up close.
Speak loud.
I'm as close as I can get.
Yale.
So maybe I need to try to project my voice. First of all, since I heard my name mentioned tonight and was very surprised because I don't know anything about Walgreens. We've never talked about a Walgreens. I've never been in one, so I don't even know. I have been in a Walmart, but I've never been in a. Can you hear me now?
No. They're not listening.
Now can you hear me? No?
It's the power of your voice, or you just need to talk right into it.
Maybe out here? Closer up?
Yeah.
Someone's saying closer up. Okay, so I don't swallow. I simply was saying that I have never been in a Walgreens. I don't know how my name got connected with a Walgreens. I've never promoted one because we've never heard anything about a Walgreens coming here, except Alderman Sobel said when we bought the property that if we didn't buy the property, that we could possibly have stores like Walgreens or Walmart or whatnot. Now, I do remember that was a couple of years ago when we bought it. I was as surprised as any of you, and as I'm sure any of the other board members, when we heard that there had been a proposal yesterday from Walgreens to buy this property. I would be clearly opposed to a Walgreens being on the corner. I cannot imagine how any of us, I'm not going to speak for the other aldermen, I cannot imagine how any of us would want a big building, whether it be Walmart or Walgreens or whatever, who said Target, sitting there. So again, I'm totally surprised that my name came up as someone in favor of a Walgreens because I know nothing about a Walgreens, and I will say right now, I will vote against a Walgreens going on this corner. The rest of them do what they want to.
Chair recognizes Alderman Showers.
First, I'd like to thank everybody that came out today. And when I voted a month or so ago to sell the property, this was exactly what I wanted to happen. I wanted you to come out. We have been hearing about the people who wanted to sell the property, but we didn't have a lot of people who came out to say, let's keep the property. And I thank you for coming out and doing exactly what I wished you to do. David Madden, he and I had a discussion a couple of months ago at the tailgate market. And I pressed him then, David, if you feel so strongly, if there are other people in this town who feel so strongly and so passionately about this property as you do, please get them to come out and let their voices be heard. I think you are a fair representation of this town, and you have expressed yourself, and you have let us know what you want, and I appreciate that. There are pros and cons all the way around about this property. You can look at it from lots of different angles. No, I'm not for Walmart. I'm not for, I got Walmart on my head. I'm not for Walgreens. I'm not for a big box store. It needs to be the small, quaint little town like it's been so expressed already, that this is what drew me and my wife to Black Mountain. This is why we continue to call it home. We've had opportunities to move from here many times, but we decided this is where we want to be. This is where we raised our family, and you know, sadly to say, you know, time comes, this is where I want to lay my head down the last time. But with all of that in mind, I think the time has come for us to make a decision, a final decision as to what we want to do. Like so many other things since I've been on this board, I felt that I've been having to be put in a place to try to clean up things that have happened years before in prior boards. It's time for us to go ahead and take a stand as to what we want to do, and let's deal with it.
Anyone else?
One thing I wanted to reiterate, before I came here, I had 76 emails come to me from yesterday when this, became known, and 15 phone calls this morning alone. I also had a phone call from Mark Motchie and Gail Smith, who are CEOs with CVS, and they were very concerned. Naturally, Mark even went so far as to say that they would, what's the word I'm looking for? They would provide money for a covenant just to keep us from doing anything such as this.
Be careful how you term that. We got an attorney in the audience.
Well, that's neither here nor there, but I've just wanted to share with you that this is evidently way out of Asheville. This call came from Greenville, South Carolina, and one of them from Raleigh, so this is very interesting.
I have one more thing to say, Carl.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, when I say that I was as surprised as anyone else and any of you out there, that an offer like this has come, rumors seem to grow in this little town. And yesterday I had a phone call. I only had 3 phone calls, incidentally, about this. 3 people, well, I had 4. 3 were opposed to a Walgreens. 1 did not really care one way or the other. But a phone call that I received when I referred to rumors, I was told in this phone call that did I not know, as a board member, that Walgreens had bought this property and they had donated it back to the town for a park. So I called Marcy and I said, Marcy, why didn't you tell us? And we wouldn't have to even come to the meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock. But she didn't seem to know anything about Walgreens buying it either. So we're here today to squelch some of those rumors. And again, I would not be in favor of a Walgreens.
Maybe CVS will buy it, though.
Any comments on the board? Well, I called this meeting. I felt like that the public needed to be heard with the input. Again, I felt that we'd rather hastily put the property on the market back at the budget hearings, which was a 4-to-1 vote at that time. So I want us to be very transparent about this offer that had come down for this property. I think this board has heard you loud and clear this evening, and I certainly appreciate your turnout. This time I call for a vote on the motion. The motion is to reject the offer from, what's the company?
Ed Street Company.
Street. All those in favor, raise your right hand of rejecting this bid, this offer. All those in favor of it, raise your right hand. It's 4-to-1.
I would like to make another motion that will squelch any further concerns, that we permanently remove this property off the selling block and it to be utilized solely for the development of a town square.
Is there any discussion on this? There being no discussion, all in favor of this being taken off the market and being developed as a town square, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 3-2, motion carries. Looks like I believe your voice has been heard.
A point of privilege, please, Mr. Mayor. I appreciated, like I said earlier, being notified 1 hour ahead of time on my cell phone that this meeting was happening so that I could be here. You know I'm a mouth here in Black Mountain. I've supported this town all my life. I was appreciative to get the opportunity to be here. I appreciate what we're doing to save our town, to make it where it's always been. A beautiful place, a friendly place, a home to anyone who wants to come here and be part of it. And I appreciate what y'all have done to help us preserve that. I appreciate what they're doing and the great job they're doing. I'm going to work a little harder. But thanks for letting us know, because I would not have known till already about my mission.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Please make your checks out to the town of Black Mountain and earmark it the town square property.
If there's no objection, I shall declare this meeting adjourned.